The effect is so convincing that a person positioned at the right angle can appear to be holding an object Beaver has drawn. And several have already stopped by his latest work to try for themselves.
Quite a lot of people have come down here to look at this and to pose on the drawing, which is something you can do with these three-dimensional illusions. You can put real three-dimensional people and things in them, and it's been a very warm welcome.
The work features a Volkswagen Amarok smashing up through the flagstones by the city's famous Bosphorus Bridge.
An Australian artist is making a splash in New York City. She's just 4 years old and she's showing off her talent at a solo exhibition.
She's only 4 years old and not even in school, yet Alita Andre has just opened her very own art exhibition in New York City. The pint-sized painter playfully welcomed patrons to the Agora Gallery for her first solo show, The Prodigy of Colour.
Welcome for you to come to my space.
Alita's parents say she began painting when she was just 20 months old. Since then, she's forged a career as an abstract expressionist and is being compared to art greats such as Pablo Picasso and Jackson Pollock. Gallery director Angela DeBello says the little girl has a rare talent.
What's interesting about her work is that I find that it's abstract expressionism, but that she's also surrealist. In the way she includes objects in her works and how she includes those objects.
Alita's paintings include works such as Asteroid, The Dog and the Alien and Coral Nebula, as she explains.
See, Dad, that's coral and that is corals. That is the dolphin waving to the frog. Well, that's a bit gooey, isn't it? It's a bit gooey.
Although both parents, Nikki and Michael, are artists, her father says Alita's talent is all her own.
There's no education, no understanding of art history or of art movements, no intimidation thinking, oh, you know, I'm in the shadow of Picasso or Pollock or something. So here she is, completely and utterly innocent, just with an innocent eye almost, coming to a canvas. So I'm looking at it from the opposite side and thinking, let's see what she does. I'm just so curious to see what somebody in that position produces.
The gallery has already sold 4 of Alita's paintings, which are priced between $4,000 and $10,000 each.
Traditional painting and sculpture are in short supply at the Venice Biennale, the world's biggest art show. The dominant trends in international contemporary art are installation art, video, and performance, pushing the older styles into the shade.
Every 2 years, the Venice Biennale takes the pulse of international contemporary art. Every available space is given over to art. Some of it even gets installed on barges in the lagoon. Installation art is everywhere. All over the city, art lovers flock to hundreds of official and unofficial art shows. There are a record 89 national pavilions in the official selection, ranging in size from San Marino to the United States. Among those showing for the first time are Andorra, Bangladesh, Haiti, and Saudi Arabia. One of the biggest draws is at the British Pavilion, where the average wait time on the opening weekend was around 3 hours. Mike Nelson spent 3 months transforming the neoclassical grandeur of the British Pavilion into a labyrinth of rooms and dead ends. The deliberately run-down, seedy interiors are intended to evoke an old, neglected house in Istanbul or maybe Venice, 2 cities whose history have intertwined for centuries. Curator Richard Riley says, like all of his work, every detail is there for a purpose.
So they're very real, and the attention to detail is very extreme. Everything is attended to, everything. Even the scraps of paper thrown on the floor, even a crumpled Coca-Cola can that might be thrown in a corner. Everything is placed. Everything has its place in a Mike Nelson work.
The Russian entry features another installation using video projections by the veteran 62-year-old artist Andrei Monastyrsky. Monastyrsky was involved in performance art during the Soviet era. Then he openly criticized the old communist regime and now the current Russian government. His video installations show the artist perform in seemingly banal, everyday situations as he interacts with spectators on camera. At the Brazilian Pavilion, another older artist is getting a chance to interact with the biggest audience in the global art calendar. One of the most poignant is the Egyptian Pavilion, devoted to the work of Ahmet Bissoni, a 32-year-old artist who was killed while filming the pro-democracy demonstrations in Cairo earlier this year. Video projections show footage shot by Bistoni during a protest that brought down the country's authoritarian regime, alongside video of the artist running on the spot in a plastic suit. The top prize, the Golden Lion Award, went to the German pavilion for the posthumous retrospective of the art by Christopher Schleusig. The American artist, Christian Marclay, won the Golden Lion for the best individual artwork for his film collage, The Clock. The Venice Biennale runs until November 27th.
And we have an inspirational story for you now. Bahnam Javid is an Iranian musician with a unique talent. Not only has he mastered and now teaches 16 different traditional Persian instruments, but he has also been blind since childhood.
Bahnam Javid chooses an instrument from his wall. In his room filled with his collection of traditional Persian instruments, he sits down to play the tanbur. Javid has been blind since early childhood, but has not let his disability interrupt his passion for music. The tanbur, a lyre-like instrument dating back to the Sassanid era, is just one of 16 instruments this Iranian maestro has mastered. In fact, Javid's exceptional talent has stunned many Persian musicians because mastering each of the Persian musical instruments requires a lifetime dedication and practice. When Javid is finished with the tanbur, he swaps it for the daf, one of Iran's most ancient frame drums. Javid can play traditional instruments, including one of the most important instruments in Persian traditional music, tar, sitar, dombak and tunbak. He also excels in the violin, the divan, the largest instrument in the family of plucked instruments, the rabab, another bowed-stringed instrument which consists of a small, usually rounded body, the kanan, a long-necked lute which is popular in Turkey and Iran. Bahnam Javid says collecting various musical instruments has been his major hobby and source of enjoyment. Born 1974 in Tehran, Javid says music is his whole life and that he has been teaching music since he was 18. He has trained several hundred music lovers in the past 2 decades, and currently he's the leader of the Husayan musical band. He and his band have won several top titles in Iran's international musical festivals since 2007. Javid's mother can't help crying when she hears her son playing traditional music. At present, he has 40 students who attend his humble music school in the basement of his parents' house. Javid is an unstoppable force. He's determined to master more musical instruments in the future.
Which country produces the best coffee in the world? Well, baristas from around the globe gathered in Colombia to find out who brews the best cup of joe.
It's the Olympics of coffee making. 54 of the world's best baristas descended on Bogota, Colombia for the 12th annual World Barista Championship. Hailing from coffee-producing countries, each contestant had to prepare 4 espressos, 4 cappuccinos and 4 original signature drinks in 15 minutes. Baristas were judged on their presentation, technique, cleanliness and service skills. Organiser Mark Inman says the competition highlights culinary coffee at its very best.
The World Barista Championship is a culinary competition focusing on the high art of espresso preparation. This year we have 54 countries competing for the World Barista Championship title. And what's been amazing the past handful of years is that more and more coffee-producing countries have made it to the finals.
Spanish champion Javier Garcia says when preparing his special brew, he tends to think about the background of the coffee bean.
I believe in the importance of the World Barista Championship. It goes beyond the barista community and beyond winning prestige among us. If we take a step back and go to the blender, go harvest our coffee beans and begin to think about where this bean's come from, how has it been treated and grown, then, well, I believe it is about dignifying the entire coffee chain. At the end of the day, each time I prepare a cup, I try to think about producers and transport myself to the growing countries.
Colombia is known as the world's #1 producer of top-quality washed Arabica coffee, which is grown in lush mountain ranges at high altitude. 30% of the country's agricultural land is dedicated to coffee, and this year it's expected to produce up to 9.5 million bags.
Shifting gears to our sports section now, let's take a look at the top sports headlines, starting in the soccer world. Mario Gomez scored his 4th goal in 3 international games as Germany overcame an early let-off to beat troubled Azerbaijan 3-1 on Tuesday and make it 7 wins from 7 in their Euro 2012 qualifying group. Group A leaders Germany led the 6-team group with 21 points from 7 games, 10 ahead of Belgium and a further 1 ahead of 3rd place Turkey, who have a game in hand. The Azeris have 3 points. The hosts were by no means pushovers and hit the bar before Germany recovered. Benedikt Hawedis floated over a cross from Must Ozil, who held off the Azeri defenders to score from close range on the half hour. The Real Madrid midfielder then set up Germany's second, slicing open the Azeri defense for Mario Gomez, who scored both goals in the 2-1 win over Austria to double the lead just before the break. The hosts refused to give up, and Murat Huseynov had already come close before pulling one back from close range after slack German defending in the 89th minute. Andre Schürrle made it a 3-1 in stoppage time to virtually seal Germany's place in next year's tournament in Poland and Ukraine. Only Turkey have a mathematical chance of depriving the Germans of top spot. The torch for the 2012 London Olympics was unveiled on Wednesday. It's a golden aluminum tube featuring a lace-like mesh with 8,000 holes that represent the number of bearers and how many miles it will travel in the 70-day relay across Britain. The triangular shape of the torch symbolizes the 3 times the British capital will have staged the Summer Olympics after the 1908 and 1948 London Games. Designed by a London-based studio headed by Edward Barber and Jay Osgerby, the torch was presented by London 2012 chairman Sebastian Coe at St. Pancras Station. The flame arrives from Greece on May 18, 2012. It will be used to light the cauldron at the opening ceremony in the Olympic Stadium on July 27, 2012. 19-year-old teenage golf icon Ryo Ishikawa gave a news conference in Tokyo on Tuesday after qualifying as one of the few teenagers to play in the upcoming U.S. Open and renewed his commitment to help the victims of the earthquake and tsunami that hit Japan. Ishikawa booked his place to play in the upcoming U.S. Open at a narrow margin after scoring 2nd in the Tatumi Hamamatsu Open tournament on May 22nd. That effectively pushed his world ranking from 53 to 49. It will be the 2nd straight U.S. Open for Ishikawa, but he lost in the first round in the previous 2 tournaments, and his condition is said to be not at his best. The widely popular golf phenomenon, Ishikawa pledged in March that he will donate all his prize money for the year of 2011 to the victims of the massive earthquake and tsunami. Ishikawa reportedly told reporters he will donate an additional 100,000 yen for each birdie he scores this year. His goal is to collect 200 million yen. He said he wants to help the victims of the massive earthquake and tsunami through golf. Rafael Nadal has a new trophy to add to his shelf. The tennis pro racked up his 6th French Open title with a 4-set win over great rival Roger Federer on Sunday. His potent powers on clay proved again just how irresistible they really are.
Rafael Nadal sealed a record-equaling 6th French Open title with a 7-5, 7-6, 5-7, 6-1 win over Roger Federer on Sunday to continue his dominance on clay over his great rival. The victory meant the Spaniard equaled Björn Borg's men's singles record at Roland Garros, while it also made sure he would remain world #1 under pressure from Novak Djokovic. Swiss Federer was bidding to beat Nadal in Western Paris for the first time in 5 attempts. He raced into a 5-2 lead in the first set and squandered a set point before errors crept into his play as the top seed turned the screw with some exceptional recovery shots. Nadal rattled off 7 games in a row to move 2-0 ahead in the second set as gaps went around a packed crowd who were mainly supporting record